Hello my friends, welcome Coffee and Reactions video channel. I am Mustafa from Turkey and I have new suggestion from Thailand. You wanted me to watch another history video and this time we are gonna watch this video my friends. Thai occupation of Germany, a forgotten World War I operation, and we are gonna watch this video from Mark Felton Productions YouTube channel. Thank you Mark Felton Productions for sharing this video with us. I'm so curious about it. In Turkey we have a similar experience in our history. We declared war to Germany at the end of the World War II for joining the United Nations, but this is from World War I. It is very interesting. I'm so curious about it. What were Thai soldiers doing in Germany? Very interesting, and I'm so curious about it. Let's start. Okay. Yeah, this is Thai flag.
At the tail end of World War I, the most exotic military detachment arrived in France, determined...
So the video's language is English, my friends. I will make it subtitles for you, Thai subtitles. So maybe you can understand better from the subtitles, my friends, in the video when you are watching. Thai. Where is Thai? Yes, here. Okay, let's continue.
to help the Allies defeat Germany. They had sailed all the way from Southeast Asia. There were plenty of Asian troops fighting on the Western Front in World War I, but they nearly all came from European colonies in Asia. For example, units of the British Indian Army or native soldiers from French Indochina, today's Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos. Or they were contract soldiers, such as Gurkhas from Nepal serving in the Indian Army, or Chinese members of the British Army's Chinese Labour Corps. This new contingent was quite different. They came as military representatives of an independent and eager to impress country that many had heard of in fiction, but few back then had actually visited in reality. The Kingdom of Siam, now called Thailand. Siam was one of the few nations never to have been colonized by the Europeans. In World War I, her king, Rama VI, was an extremely well-educated man, the author of over 120 books, and fairly pro-British. The king purchased British artillery guns to protect his capital, Bangkok, from French Empire building. And he continued his father's work in modernizing Siam, keen to demonstrate Siam's modernity to the world and its civilization to the great imperial powers, particularly its views regarding international law and morality. The king decided to involve his nation in World War I after reading of German atrocities in Europe. The decision was made to send an expeditionary force to France to demonstrate Siam's military professionalism and draw favorable attention to the nation in Asia.
Okay, if I understand it correctly, he had very strong education. He had education from England. So I think he wanted to help England for this war. I think this is one of the reasons. But let's continue.
The French, Siam's difficult neighbor in Indochina, had already suggested that Siam create a voluntary ambulance unit in France, made up of Siamese students then studying in the country. The French also suggested that the Royal Siamese Army could provide vehicle drivers, as well as pilots and aviation mechanics to be trained by the French. Due to a lack of appropriate equipment, the Siamese troops would receive French uniforms, including the M1915 Adrian steel helmet. The king formed the Siamese Expeditionary Forces for the mission to Europe, which consisted of an 870-man transport and medical unit, plus a 414-man aviation corps. All the troops were volunteers.
This is really very interesting. If you think that Thailand and France were fighting each other a few years before, they were enemy before, and now Thailand soldiers is wearing French uniforms. I would have never guessed that. It is very interesting for me. Wow, really very interesting.
Arriving ahead of the force in France was its commander, Major General Fryer. He had lived in France for years and had attended a French military academy, so he knew the French very well. The main force of Siamese troops arrived at the port of Marseille by ship on the 30th of July 1918 after a 6-week voyage via Singapore and Egypt. They expected pomp and ceremony, but were met with indifference by the French. The problem was, most of the French mistook them for Indo-Chinese colonial troops.
Okay.
The Siamese contingent was also extremely small. At the time, for example, 10,000 US troops were arriving every day in Marseille, so the arrival of the Siamese troops went largely unnoticed. However, the different Siamese contingents were dispatched to camps for 2 months further training before committing them to battle. Unfortunately, the liaison officers that the French supplied were very high-handed and racist towards the Siamese, causing deep tensions between the two allies.
Yes, I can understand that because they were enemy before. This is very understandable. And this is very surprising for me that Thailand is working with France in these operations. Okay, it is very understandable.
The King of Siam and his diplomats in Europe complained vociferously, and a storm raged back and forth between Bangkok and Paris. In the meantime, the transport and medical units saw some limited action before the armistice, working behind the Allied front lines. But the flying unit had not completed its training before the war ended on the 11th of November 1918. Siamese casualties on war operations in France totaled 9 men dead, none of them to enemy fire, but due to accidents and illness, Siamese troops finding it particularly difficult to cope with cold weather. 2 other Siamese soldiers had died in Bangkok during preparations for shipping out. Due to the row between Siam and France concerning the high-handed French liaison officers, the Allies decided to mollify the Siamese by giving them a role in the occupation of Germany. Under the terms of the armistice, it was agreed that the Rhineland, that German territory on both banks of the river Rhine in the west of the nation, would be occupied, including the city of Cologne. The reason was twofold. Firstly, to provide France with a buffer zone to make it difficult for any future German attack against them, and primarily to force Germany to make war reparations, payments for causing the war in the first place, the Rhineland containing many important industries. The Rhineland was divided into American, Belgian, British and French occupation zones, plus 1 other. Siam was to be given the opportunity of entering German territory and occupying a small area of the French zone. This gesture greatly mollified the king and his people, who were immensely proud that Siam was finally being accorded equal status to the other Allied powers.
That's nice.
Accordingly, in December 1918, Siamese troops arrived at the German town of Neustadt on the edge of the Palatinate Forest, a pretty small town of traditional houses and churches, surrounded by several villages, farms and vineyards.
It's looking very beautiful.
The town was in a confused state, having fallen to a workers' and soldiers' council during the revolutionary period following the Kaiser's abdication in late 1918. The main problem facing the Siamese, however, would be disease. The Spanish flu pandemic affected the people of Neustadt and Siamese troops equally, and several soldiers would die from the flu. 500 Siamese troops formed the Neustadt garrison. They arrived by train from Kaiserslautern and marched into the town on the 7th of December 1918 in full battle gear, steel helmets on, rifles on their shoulders and colours flying. The locals were initially deeply suspicious of these new arrivals, most assuming that they were French colonial troops, but after some weeks, friendly relations developed between the Buddhist soldiers and the local townspeople.
Really? Okay.
8 Siamese soldiers would die during the occupation of Neustadt and its surrounding area, half of them due to the flu, the rest to accidents. This little slice of Germany remained under Siamese occupation until July 1919, when Siam withdrew preparatory to shipping the troops home. It is said that tears were shed by both sides when the Siamese troops marched out of Neustadt and the area reverted to French occupation. The Siamese expeditionary forces arrived in Bangkok to a tumultuous welcome. A war memorial honouring the 19 dead was unveiled in 1921, and Siamese soldiers would receive the rarest version of the Victory Medal 1914-18, as well as a service medal from their own nation. Incredibly, the last Siamese Expeditionary Forces veteran only died in 2003. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.
This video was very interesting, my friends. There are very cool informations about Thailand and World War One. I would have never guessed. It is very interesting. First of all, there are no casualties because of the war, but there are casualties for accidents and flu. Spanish flu, of course. It was very dangerous those years. 9 people, if I remember correctly, 9 people died because of these accidents and flu. And the most interesting part, most heartwarming part was even the Thailand was occupying force. They created friendship between local people. This is very beautiful. This is very heartwarming. This is Thailand. This is Thai people. They become friends with German people. Very lovely, very beautiful. Thank you, Mark Felton Productions YouTube channel, for sharing this beautiful, very satisfying, interesting and beautiful information, details, very interesting details with us. Thank you, my friends, for your suggestions. You wanted me to watch this video. I learned new things about Thailand today, and I am happy. Very interesting. Thank you for watching it together with me, my friends. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.